Well, this year's Derby has been renamed in honour of the late His Highness Aga Khan IV, who won the race so many times, most memorably with the Great Shergar in 1981. I've come here to Aiglemont on the outskirts of Chantilly, this beautiful, historic and tranquil spot that was for so many years the racing home to His late Highness. I'm here to talk to his daughter, Princess Zahra, who has taken over the running of the racing and bloodstock empires and who this year, with her team, will be at Epsom, not just to see Calandagan, their great older horse, but to see whether one 3-year-old out of left field can provide the most fitting tribute to the legacy laid down by her late father.
And Shergar is going on and going clear, but coming up to the line, Shergar is going to win it at the line. Shergar is the winner, very easy winner, owned by His Highness the Aga Khan. As Chaos goes on from Glacial Storm back in second place. Glacial Storm really well is. That's Chaos who's going to hold on. Shergar just hold on. At the line, Shergar is a dancing rain.
It's Zaki wheeled in by Sindar, and Sindar's stamina comes to the fore from Zaki. It's Sindar and Johnny Murtagh for Ireland. Sindar wins the Vodafone Derby. It's Tarzan in the colours of the Aga Khan, who has won the Investment Derby.
Well, Princess Zahra, it's wonderful to be here at Aiglemont today, just to see the fruits of the imagination of generations of your family as well, particularly your late father, who everyone will miss so much. What do you think were his guiding principles as he brought this to what it is today?
I would say probably the basics for any breeder: stewardship of the land, care of the families, adding generation on generation, having a long-term approach to breeding. He was absolutely Cartesian and mathematical in his approach to breeding. We have our formulas and variables, and he had this very methodical approach to building the broodmare band generation on generation. It was never a knee-jerk reaction or fashion or anything like that. He had his own way of doing things, but he very much learnt about what his father and his grandfather had done, and then he adapted to stay up with current times and to always try to evolve, and hence, always bringing new blood, but at the same time maintaining the old families, those that my great-grandfather first invested in. And I think it was that approach to a very sort of concrete stewardship role, but also a relatively, a quite modern, for lack of a better word, approach to building a genetic capital in the stud farms.
Because when he took over the farm or inherited, he wasn't particularly horsey at the time, was he?
No, not at all. He had been around horses all his life, but he wasn't a horsey person particularly. His father died in a car crash 3 years after his grandfather died, so none of those roles were expected for him. And it took him a long time to decide. I think it took him 2 years to decide whether he was going to keep going with this family breeding activity. And when he had gone around the farms and talked to the trainers and the farm managers and etc., I think his final reflection was that it had been in our family for so long, this love of horses, tracking all the way back to India and Persia, where people talk about my great-grandfather, but his father and his father before him, they were all surrounded by horses all the time. And I think that my father looked at this historical tradition and thought, I can't let this go. So he knuckled down and learnt everything that he could.
For you, it was different, I guess, because you grew up with the sound of hooves past your bedroom window, I should imagine, didn't you?
I did. I grew up in a house in the Bois Saint-Denis, just a kilometre away, in a stable yard. But also my mother was an eventer, and she loves horses, and she'd been racing all her life. So I had on the one side the rather more academic approach of my father, and on the other side my mother's true love of the animals. So I had both, and yeah, I did grow up with hooves in the morning.
And did you love the racing when you were a child?
Yes, I started going with my mother when I was about 5 years old, and we both loved it. So it was our little moment away from everyone else.
And the pedigree side of it and the production of the horses, was that something that engaged you early or not?
So my father always talked about, he would never go to a race without having looked at the pedigree, looked at the inbreedings, looked at the dam and the sire, and reminded himself of why he'd taken that decision to send the mare to the stallion. And so it was always present. But it's difficult to get one's head around. There's a lot of families and a lot of information. So as a child, that was just sort of a gloss that Dad knew about, and I didn't know that I'd ever learn about, but I hope that I have enough to keep it going.
Were there horses of his at the time that left a particular impression on you? Were there ones you can really remember early on that you fell in love with for whatever reason?
Yeah, when I was a little girl, Zedan, he inspired my father because he was such a maverick. Blushing Groom, Dad's first Derby runner. And then after that, Akida, I think, was important, but there were so many others. Dad always paid more attention, well, didn't pay more attention, but he was always happiest when a filly won a good race. So the colts sort of came and went, but the fillies were the foundational elements of what he was doing.
How well do you recall Shergar?
Very well. I remember being in his box. I was 13.
Shergar is well clear with a furlong to go. Shergar a long way clear of his rivals. Shergar in the lead and clear. Wallace Winburn riding him out, going for home ahead of Clinton Thorne is second. Scintillating there is third. Chocolate is fourth. But coming up to the line, Shergar is going to win it at the line. Shergar is the winner. Very easy winner.
He was a very gentle horse. You could have slept in his box with him. He would, even when he became a stallion, he was a very, very lovely character. I recall very well that Derby. I was too young to go to the Derby, but my parents went, and I know that my father was over the moon.
Did you as a family realise the magnitude of what he was achieving on the day, the sheer scale of it? Because obviously his legend intensified given what happened to him subsequently, but did you realise then in the moment how big a moment that was?
Yes, yes, you couldn't watch that race because I was watching it on the television. You couldn't watch that race and watch that horse run completely out of field for the camera, so that the finishing shots are only of him, and the rest of the field are out of camera. So, of course, everyone realised, I think, and for my father to have bred that horse, I wouldn't say it was unexpected because he always put so much thought into his pedigrees, but it was a revelation for him. I think he was very, very, very happy.
And the Derby, try and sum up what it meant to your family and means to your family.
So for my father, it was definitely the race of all races. He considered it to be the highest, truest test of a thoroughbred. Of course, times change and fashions change and so on and so forth, but he still maintained the Derby as his premier race in his life. And his goal was always to breed a Derby horse in the colts, always.
And what do you think it was about it that really stimulated him, that really got his imagination going?
I remember when Blushing Groom was being prepared for the Derby, and Monsieur Mathieu, who I don't think had run much at Epsom before, and my father having conversations about the fact that to actually have a Derby horse, it has to be not just a horse who has inherent speed and staying capacity, but also and staying capacity in a high sort of travelling speed with an acceleration afterwards. But also a horse who is agile enough for that track, because it's a very demanding track, and a horse that's so settled in his head that he won't be got at by the foibles of that course, of so many other runners, of the noise on the day. So I remember that Monsieur Mathieu and my father running through the various aptitudes of Blushing Groom and sort of picking to pieces what they thought was going to upset him, what they thought would do He would handle, and then I'm sure, I don't know if you know, but Monsieur Mathieu asked special permission to run the Aigle Gallop backwards to prepare Blushing Groom to a downhill left-hand turn. So they actually rode the training tracks backwards once for Blushing Groom.
That's tremendous.
Yeah. But that's the kind of preparation that, yeah, my Dad was always on the gallops. He was always talking to Mr. Mathieu. And after that, all of the other trainers, he had a truly intimate understanding and knowledge of the horses who were in the yards.
I do wonder how he found the time for it, but I guess if you really love it, you just make the time for it.
Dad had the most amazing capacity for information and for attention. So he never stopped. I never saw him take a day off. He would work all day and all evening, and this was, but he managed his time, so he would dedicate a few hours to this, a few hours to that, and this was one of the things that he loved. And he did, in the same methodical way he did everything else.
There are around 80 horses in the 100 boxes here at Aigues-le-Mans, and they're now in the care of Francis Graffard. He's only the third private trainer to the Aga Khan family, after the great Francois Maté, and then for so many years Alain Drouet-Dupré, to whom Graffard for some time was assistant at his other base, the other side of town. How does it feel then to be wearing that cloak of history and to be training these blue bloods for one of the most established families in global horse racing?
There is always a feeling in me, like questioning myself, saying, "How? It's me training here, really?" I'm always. The place is so impressive, and so yes, for me, as a racing fan from the beginning, my family, I always have a little thinking of my grandfather and saying, "Oh my God, it's impressive to be here." And
This is your grandfather, because he was the horsey one in your family.
yeah, it was. He had few half-bred mares. We are from Burgundy, so it's him who took me racing in Deauville and Vichy, and so that's how I got passionate about the horse. And to be here now as a trainer, my first goal was to be a trainer in Chantilly, and now I'm a trainer of Aigues-le-Mans for His Highness horses. So it's just unbelievable.
When you were appointed, what did you feel? What was that initial feeling?
I had a meeting with His Highness in Normandy on the stud with Princess Zahra, and that was very informal. And I'm quite a naive person, so I was just going there without expecting anything special, really. And it was a lovely, lovely afternoon with them. So we discussed about racing in general and my feeling about the future and things like that. And then I started to realize I was probably going to get a job. So no, it was a very, very good day. And I didn't really realize at the time what was going to happen. And then I had a big stable on my side. Mm-hmm. So I needed to think how I was going to manage with my other yard and with my owners that have been supporting me from day one, how people will take it, you know. So from a business point of view, it was a challenge not to lose owners from my other staff yards, and to do a good job here also with a lot of pressure.
Because however many big owners want to be the kingpin, you know that if you're training for this incredible operation, this is going to be a huge priority.
That's part of the discussion we had with the Aga Khan team. Is I always said from day one I had a big stable with nice horses, and I really it is a sport, and I can't prioritize one stable against another. So I will train the horses to their best, and then but I might have horses against Aigues-le-Mans stable, and that was a deal, and they accepted it, and it works.
How would you characterize a typical Aga Khan horse? Could you spot an Aga Khan horse from across town?
Oh yeah, no, they have usually they have a beautiful head, a lot of class in them. Physically, they are quite impressive horses. That's most of them. We can't make a general comment on that, but and we used to say they have a lot of stamina, but I really find speed in their pedigrees again. More I am here, probably the way I train them, I don't know, but there is speed in this pedigree, and I think Siuni is a big part of it also. He really changed his families by bringing back some speed and waking up the families, and and when we find that they have so much quality. So no, it's for me as a trainer, they're dream horses.
Tell me a little bit about Francis and what you think he brings to this next generation of Aga Khan horses.
Francis has a really interesting approach to the horse because he's not like some trainers I've known in my past, especially when I was a child. Training a horse was all about dominating the horse and having the horse do what you tell it to do. Francis tries to view the horse as an individual and understand what is going to make them happy, what's going to make them flourish. And he does everything that he can. He has a very innovative training method, and he is very dynamic in his approach to the yard and to the horses. He's also someone who's very organized, and that helps a lot. He has taken on a huge workload by taking on this yard, and it's really been wonderful to see the changes in the yard that he brought, the vivacity that he brings with his training method and his method of taking care of the horses in the barns. So it's a pleasure to work with Francis because he just has this really innovative and dynamic approach.
How does the methodology differ from his predecessors in terms of the actual business of sending those horses out on the gallops every day and what he's doing with them?
I think he identifies potential in horses very quickly. I think he identifies also weaknesses in horses, and he doesn't wait around to see if that's going to, clear up. It's like, okay, this is not going to work, so let's stop trying. I think his approach towards his team, because the team has a huge influence on how the strings run and how the horses are cared for, and I think his approach towards his team is different. It's different from past yards, or at least trainers that I've worked with. And overall, he's an innovator.
I'm fair. I just I don't get angry. I don't shout. I just try to organize my work very simply. And for the staff, it's simple. I'm lucky. I have two very good assistants. One on my side, Romain, and Willy here at Aiglemont, and they know exactly how I want things to be done. They are the ones that shout and organize everything, but it's so important to have a team behind you. You can't do that job without a big team, well organized.
Are you naturally a very well organized person?
I am.
Were you always one of those people?
Yeah, I'm an operator. I see a problem and I can fix it quickly. I'm not an intellectual. My wife has a brain. So I don't manage my calendar very well or things like that. But for work in the morning, I can see things to be very efficient. And I think that's how you call it. I'm an operator.
You can think on your feet.
Oh yeah.
You're quick.
Yeah, I'm quick, and because I've done all this job. I've worked hard in the yard, and also when I was young, my dad at home, the way of thinking and approaching problems and resolving the problems quickly. Yeah. I have that, I think.
What were you going to do if you hadn't been a racehorse trainer?
Probably a lawyer, specialized in the horse industry. That was my idea. But I would have. It would have taken me a long time to reach the top as a lawyer, and I love the sport aspect of my job, the competition. It's really good.
Epsom have named this year's Derby, the 2025 Derby, the Derby in honour of His Highness Aga Khan IV. How does that make you feel?
Very touched for my father. because he really loved the Derby. He really loved having a Derby horse. I think he would be incredibly chuffed that it's going to be run in his name this year. For me, it's going to be a bit sentimental, but it's a great honour for him, and it would really have made him very happy.
And the colours will be carried?
Yes.
By Midak?
By Midak.
About whom we know relatively little at the moment. Tell me a little bit about how we've gone from quite raw, immature horse to, okay, quite an interesting horse for the Derby.
Well, he's unbeaten in 3 starts. We know he gets the trip. He's got the right kind of character to be able to handle Tattenham Corner and all the noise that comes with the Epsom Derby. It's nice to have a runner on this year, because the race is being run in honour of my father. And, you know, he's done everything that he should to be a valid runner at the Epsom Derby.
When Francis, your trainer, Francis Graffard, put the idea to you, how did you respond?
When Midak won his last race, I asked Francis, well, this is a jockey club horse, isn't it? And he said, well, we can't. We've got another runner, can we? And he said, anyway, we've got, you know, another horse in our stable yard. And I was like, well, what are you thinking of doing? And he just looked at me and he went, Epsom? And I think we all thought that, you know, it's lovely to have a runner in the race. And he's ticked all the boxes. There's no reason not to run him.
You didn't need your arm twisted too much?
Oh, no.
This is a dream race for me, the Derby at Epsom. I walked the course, and my grandfather always talked to me about the Epsom Derby. I read Desio and all these things. And this is a dream race. And we had this horse, Midak, who needs to be supplemented in the Jockey Club or in the Derby. So I said to Princess Zahra, I said, look, you have already 2 runners in the Jockey Club. Why not we give it a go at the Derby? And she'll be there because, as you said, very kindly, British Racing have named the race for His Highness the Aga Khan this year. So we take a chance.
In your heart of hearts, and you'll have a pretty good idea, do you think Midak's got the raw talent to make an impression at a very good level?
Nick, if there's one thing I've learned, is that you can't have an impression for the Epsom Derby. A lot depends on the draw, a lot depends on how the race goes, a lot depends on how the horse handles it, a lot depends on the other runners. So I would say that my father never ran a horse if he didn't think that it would be in the first 3. I think that Midak has shown the potential that he could be in the first 3 of the Epsom Derby. From his existing career, I grant you it's a step up, but I don't see why he would be disqualified in terms of aptitude and results.
I enjoyed that because you started with the emotional side and ended up with the rational side. So I think it's all coming through again, isn't it? It's all the yin and the yang, whatever.
It is the yin and the yang, and you can't take a one-time decision as a driver for this kind of operation. You have to say, okay, why Midak? Why on his aptitude? Why on his results? And what would that mean for his family? What would that mean for that bloodline? So it's a much longer process. And again, it's a massive, intellectually quite a. I think all breeders have the same thing. People who tend to be owners and breeders would take the same approach.
Well, there's little doubt that the 11th hour entry to the Derby in honour of the Aga Khan IV will be the one that sets tongues wagging. Midak will be the name on everybody's lips from this stable, but for many months we've anticipated a huge run from his hitherto better known stable companion, because in the Coronation Cup on Friday, surely Calandagan has his opportunity to win that elusive Group 1.
Calandagan trying hard to rein him in. Back in third place is Ghostwriter. City of Troy having to dig really deep here as they race inside the final furlong. He's made every yard so far, and City of Troy, what a game performance all the way in the City of York in the jump-up.
Calandagan went pretty close to becoming the first French winner of this race since Triptych in 1987.
He's developed into a really top-class horse.
Well, Francis, this is a Group 1 horse, but he hasn't won a Group 1 yet.
Yes.
Calandagan, and I can see from your face it's frustrating you.
Yeah, because he's a very, very good horse, and he has been second 3 times in Group 1 in big races. So he's a champion. We just need to win a Group 1 with him now.
Now, since we've been standing here, he's already tried to take a piece out of you 3 times, and he's gelded. I mean, what was he like before?
He was very difficult. He was nearly dangerous. As you can see, he's quite still a mean horse. He can. We didn't have the choice. So the princess is still upset, but I don't think he would be the Calandagan everybody knows if he still was an entire horse.
And what about the Coronation Cup? What is it about Epsom that you think might be right for him?
Well, he's a very well-balanced horse, so I don't think the undulation of the track will be a problem for him. He needs 1.5 miles. I just want to keep him over that distance. So when I was doing the program, the idea was to go to Dubai, and from Dubai, how I was working it. So Epsom was a logical race, really.
And then what are you thinking beyond that?
He's entered in the Grand Prix de Saint-Cloud. Depends of what Epsom arrive at Epsom. He can go to the King George also, Eclipse can be an option also.
He's going to be a busy boy.
Yeah, no, but he's ready. We respected him. We didn't take him to the Breeders' Cup last year or in Japan or Hong Kong. So we respected him, and he's ready to go. So yeah, he's going to be a busy boy. So I just hope we win a Group 1 as soon as possible, and then we can work from that.
I'm sure so many people have asked you over the last few years, what does the future hold? Where do you see this enterprise going through the next couple of generations? Do you have a clear idea in your mind at the moment?
It's early days, and so obviously we're still trying to work out. But I mean, you met the next generation, and they're enthusiastic. I think that the point is to try to keep it a family operation, aiming for the best possible quality, the best possible, most rigorous operation that we can, and to continue this. It's more than 100 years. It's a lot of winners. It's a long list of black type, and I hope that will continue.
Well, when people talk about labours of love, there's not been much more labour put into something than this, and not much more love invested in it as well. It's quite something, isn't it?
There are other operations out there that have done similar things.
But over this length of time?
Yes, in terms of longevity.
And with that singularity of purpose?
Yeah. Yes, I suppose that's fair enough. It is a labour of love. It's certainly not an economic proposition or a business or done for any other purposes than just to have a family breeding operation. And the fact that the Aga Khan Studs has been here for more than 100 years, I think, is something that we have to value and cherish and perpetuate.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.